Give us some verse lah.
Uh, uh, you're beautiful. You're beautiful. Yeah, it's hard. It's hard with the audience. Sorry. Yeah, hopefully next time
He got
with a few more tries.
performance anxiety.
Yeah, absolutely. Because this is totally out of my comfort zone. Yeah.
All right.
I really don't feel good. It's like getting a
Is anyone here? What did you find?
You are listening to Supernatural Confessions. Hey, welcome back to another episode of Strange World. This is part 2 to the NDE discussion that we last talked about. If you've just joined us, do watch part 1 of this. I think it's very important to set up the base of what we're going to be talking about today. And also stay tuned for the very, very chilling story that Dr. Yong shared with us that made us all had our jaw drop. Now, continuing on this episode of NDE, Mary Mike, take us to episode 7.
Okay, so we had a bit of the science, so let's get into the paranormal supernatural accounts of this NDE. So there have been many case studies of this, and I think Dr. Yong came out with a very good one in the previous episode, and it's very I guess we could say that it's very clear that there have been people with verified out of body experiences. They also say that they see themselves being able to comprehensively review their lives that happens before them, and also that they have encountered beings of light. Now, this is interesting because even before we talk about the scientific part of NDEs, there are many so-called Asian cultural connections. Like there are some shamanic traditions that have done things like undertake journeys to the spirit world, which also share the same properties with NDE narratives. There's out of body experiences, there's encounters with spiritual beings. And in Tibetan Buddhism, the concept of Bardo, did I pronounce that correctly?
I believe so.
The concept of Bardo, or is it Bardu? Okay, so concept of Bardo describes an intermediate state between death and rebirth, bearing the same resemblances to NDE descriptions or transitional realms. So, Dr. Yong and Eugene, what do you all think of this?
Yeah.
I see Eugene smile already.
I like to do consilience convergence studies, right? So this concept of Bardo, I sort of equate it a little bit, and York, please correct me if I'm wrong, to the concept of purgatory in Catholicism, where this intermediate period, where you are being judged, you're being balanced on the scales, and things happen. That's to me. Yeah, Eugene?
Oh, I thought there was more to that. That's something you went into a very interesting discussion about balancing on the scales. I'm thinking Egyptian mythology where you're going to pull in your trip and okay.
Maybe later.
Okay. I think I covered this pretty much briefly in the part 1 of this discussion where I felt people could willingly will themselves out of body. They could train themselves spiritually to a level where they can tap onto the Akashic records or some esoteric knowledge and download those information at will after spiritual training. So NDE is just a very blunt force way of getting to that state through a shock to the system. I think there is a possibility to train all of us to get to that stage without having to die first. Yeah.
Yes, agreed.
I think meditation kind of brings us to that stage, doesn't it? Like you slow your breathing down, you clear your mind, you are trying to get to that delta wave, brainwave, where it's very, very low. And that's why people say during your sleep time, where between wakefulness and your dream state, that's where you can astral project.
Yeah.
Sorry, just getting a bit of this what's the word for it? A light bulb moment.
You got to download from up above.
No, because I'm now starting to be inspired. Like, what if, right? Correct. Let's say Dr. Yo was saying that Bardo is very similar to purgatory, correct? And then Eugene was saying that in that specific state where you're able to download Akashic records and all this, correct?
Mhm.
Are we actually then when we say that we are traveling, or astral projecting or experiencing NDE? Is there like one universal dimension that we actually enter when such things happen? Based on the all the let's say all the requirements are all aligned together, and then you just happen to enter there, whether or not is through death, whether it's through NDE, whether it's through meditation.
Mm.
Hmm.
This shared experience, right? And I think this goes back to what we sort of touched on the first episode 2, where what happens when we die, and what is the reality, and does the person's belief govern the reality that they experience when they transcend? And this is also where it gets interesting, where we have that Bado, we have the pituitary, but what about in the Taoist belief that there is this Meng Po Ting, where you give you Meng Po Tang, and then you drink and you forget all your memories before you go to the next level. So during one of my client's opinion activation journey, he actually went to that Meng Po Ting, but he rejected the bowl of soup and he went to do other things. So I just find that then which one is real? What about the new Mami, and what about the Man in Black? What about
Wow.
Hajia, and all the other things? Yeah, and I think
Wow.
this is Eugene territory.
Wow, the 牛头马面 Hey, I tell you first, my grandma saw that before she dropped. That was legit. It's also very creepy.
I've got an explanation, guys, and this explanation was wisdom I've gleaned from speaking to a few spiritual masters of different ethnicity, different background, different training. According to one of the Chinese master who has a large giant Buddha statue in his home, he's practiced in Buddhism in various different ways, from the Vajrayana, Mahayana, and when he does his chanting, he can do both Chinese style, or he can go to the Tibetan with the mudra and everything. He tells me that it's all the same. It's just using the different tools required, because when I want to deal with certain things, having the cultural knowledge of what I'm doing, it's in a more effective transference of energy. And I can understand that from a human level, where if I am going to China, I'm trying to communicate with the Chinese. Maybe I'm a successful businessman everywhere in the world, but I cannot be a successful businessman in China if I cannot speak the language or understand the culture. So as a spiritual master, if I use that same example, I can be very good at where I am now. But if I go to your country and your culture, which is different from mine, and I insist on just doing voodoo dance and whatever, it's not going to translate. Maybe I'm powerful as well. I got energy work, but it cannot translate to the recipient. And another guy I spoke to, he's a Japanese shaman background, and when we started talking about gods and practices and everything else, he was saying, yeah, I help you connect to your God. And it doesn't mean that there are no gods around or you only have to follow my God. I help you connect to your God. So for me, when he worked with my energy level, he tell me this is your divinity, this is who it is. When he worked with somebody else, he said that, oh, you are your God is Jesus Christ. Why don't you argue back to Jesus Christ? He's been waiting for you the whole time. And the person was very shocked because he was born Catholic. He's backslide. He went other ways around, and his life just went to shits, and he just didn't believe in religion anymore. And the shaman was able to say, Jesus Christ is yours. So, and also with that Chinese guy, the first one that I talked to, he said he went to one of the house, and he was doing a cleansing work, and he found Jesus Christ standing there,
Oh,
right? And he's like, is it okay if I were to do this for the family? Because obviously you are their guardian, right? And just kind of saying, go ahead. So, of course, if you share this out with public people, Christians may be offended. Oh yeah, you don't talk about my God that way. There's only one God. Don't bring everything else. I am just but sharing the experiences that these shamans tell me, so I can tell it to you. How you want to receive it, you want to believe it, you want to get offended. I cannot control that. I'm just sharing this information. So my opinion, taking all this knowledge that I have gleaned from this couple of shamans, makes me feel that in this pantheon of unseen entities, they exist. All of them exist on different planes or equal planes. But how you, as the survivor, would see them would be based on A, your cultural experience in this life, who you were in a spiritual sense, because who we are is a combination of our spiritual side and physical side. So 30% maybe knowledge of our current time, 30% from our past life, 30% new knowledge downloaded. So if I were to see, say, an Egyptian god, when I'm a Singaporean with no connection to the Egyptian mythology at all, this could be because my past life had a connection with that, and it comes back to me. And in this life, because I am, say, maybe I picked up Buddhism along the way or Christianity along the way, I would then have this shared world, this energy connection to the Egyptian side and the Christian side, and that's how I would explain why people see certain things and some people don't. Yeah.
And I agree with what you say, that there is a pantheon out there, and yeah, this might also ruffle feathers, but after seeing what we've seen, after experiencing what we've experienced, I still can't find a different explanation beyond what we just discussed. Yeah. Yeah.
I think the Jesus part is pretty interesting because it's something that I always kind of contended with, and coming from a very staunch Christian background. My mom is like one of those soccer moms who are like, don't believe this, like it's pretty bad because when I was younger, I was banned from playing Dungeons and Dragons. I know this kind of,
Because
because she thinks it's because she's I mean it's pretty obvious, isn't it?
Understand.
Got Demon,
Understand.
got the Vecna and all that.
Understand.
Yeah, but basically I'm not dissing her. I love my mom. It's just that trying to paint a picture of how strict she was at that time. And the interesting thing is that when I go through like the book of Genesis, and then I go through like the book of Enoch and many other different apocryphals, correct, it has impressed upon me that all gods do exist, and from the Christian perspective of mine is that yes, monotheistic. There definitely has to be one up there, who is all powerful and outside of the dimension of time is able to control all of these things. That is my personal belief. But to bring it down into the evidences that we see, correct, is that human beings are born, are given free will to believe whatever they want to believe. They can choose to believe a specific god. They can choose to believe the god that's ingrained in their own culture, whichever it is. And then the Christian perspective is that yes, all these gods do exist, because if these gods don't exist, why would God come up with the 10 commandments that say you shall have no gods before you shall have no other gods before me? Which means that he knew at the time, during the time of Moses, right, that other gods do exist. Whether or not they are really gods or they are just Nephilim watchers or whichever, whatever, correct? He knows that yes, other gods do exist, but it is your choice whether you want to put that aside and then believe that I am the one that you're supposed to follow after. So I don't think the idea will ruffle feathers. What I personally believe is that the church uh, has sort of kind of like avoided that dilemma in hopes that it won't confuse believers. But the thing is that it's very difficult to kind of like question, like, why is it that certain things are written in a certain way in the scripture, and you start to find that if you try to explore outside of it, right, it points to the idea that we are not, or rather our existence is not only the only existence, but there are many other things that have existed way before us. You know, considering that the Earth is built like how many billions of years it has existed much longer than us. You know, Mars may have once been an inhabitable planet or so, and so on and so forth. So that is my take. Yeah.
Mm.
Okay.
Um,
So as we were talking about all this, right, I'm going to go and check brainwave activity levels and the spiritual significance.
So chill.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, so according to this particular article, I don't know whether it's true or not, but you know, Dr. Yong can be the expert here. It says after you know, I just went to summarize out the whole thing.
Mm,
Um, it says here that the gamma waves at
mm,
40 to 100 hertz is
yes.
where the higher brain functions, and that includes perception and consciousness, start to happen. And this is at the level of insight. And this is like it has to do with the high level information processing.
Mm,
So this particular wave, gamma wave,
mm,
is also connected to profound spiritual experiences and
yes.
also intense moments of revelation or deep compassion.
Mm, yes.
So my hypothesis, which will probably be destroyed in like 2 seconds, will be if we are able to constantly hit this particular way, will we actually kind of like transcend ourselves into purgatory?
Oh, okay. Let me just share a little bit on that. So, gamma wave activity is one of the highest. So we have alpha, beta. Alpha, why it's called alpha is basically it's not because of where it is, it's because it's the one first discovered. And then when they discovered the second one, they call it beta. Beta is our waking state right now. Then after that, we have delta, which is associated with sleep. Then we have gammas, which is a very, very high level. And like what Mike explained, right? Very high levels of perception where you can have a bird's eye view, you know, of what's happening with me. And it's like, oh, this is what it is. I can see from the other person's perspective because I have the bird's eye view. And in this state, you're able to transcend your limited field of view. Um, and the interesting thing is that in very, very experienced meditators, right, when they do a functional MRI scan, they have this blue pearl of light in the middle of their brain. And when those people who are attached to EEG machines, during the process when we are resuscitation, a lot of them, right, they have erratic brainwave activity that does not categorize into any of the brainwaves. But at the final moments, right, they have intense gamma activity. And this intense gamma activity, like what you explained, what it does, right? I believe this intense gamma activity is what explains NDEs, explain the sudden realizations you get, you know, after you come out of an NDE. And I am not sure where the show notes we are right now, but I would love to talk about, you know, what happens after a person goes through NDEs, what are the after effects, and also just the previous episode we talked about the one of the very small evidence, you know, that blind person story, but there is even stronger evidence. I don't know whether we have time for
Yes.
that.
Yeah, you know,
Go ahead.
actually, you just continue.
Go
Yeah,
ahead. Go
yeah, yeah.
ahead. Yeah.
Okay. So Eugene, do you mind sharing the small image that I shared in WhatsApp?
When was it? Is that now? Like.
Like
The
20 minutes ago.
hierarchy of evidence.
Evidence,
Oh,
yes.
okay.
Yeah. Okay. So a little bit background. So this near-death experience, once again, was coined by Dr. Raymond Moody in 1975 because he documented the afterlife journey of his fellow physician, Dr. George Ritchie, who was dead for nearly 9 minutes at the age of 20. There is a book. Okay, I can share the link. But because Raymond, and then subsequently, Dr. Raymond, he started interviewing all the people who have NDEs. But because this comes from personal interviews, and this is merely anecdotal, so here is when I'm going to introduce the hierarchy of evidence. So whenever an expert gives an opinion that I feel vitamin D should be taken 900 milligram for this population, but it's not backed by any studies, right? It's expert opinion. It's actually a very low level. Case series, case reports taken from individual instances also is very low level evidence in terms of research. Where the research is strong and more credible, it goes into case control cohort randomized control style studies. What does this mean is that you have a case and you have a control, and randomized control trials is where you've probably heard of this. People are testing a new drug, And then let's say in a group trial of 100, 50 will be taking the drug, measuring the effects before and after. Another 50 will be taking a placebo pill or a sugar pill, and then measuring the effects. And the point of this research is to what portion is the therapeutic effects from this drug come from the belief, and which is actually from the actual. So this is a randomized control trial. The patient is blinded. Sometimes the doctor is blinded. Only the researcher knows. Sometimes even the researcher is blinded. Okay, and this makes that evidence stronger, right? And the most evidence is systematic review or meta-analysis, where a lot of research has been done. So here comes the researcher gathering a battery of researchers and finds the common denominator, and this is even stronger. And this pyramid here is important. And in the future discussions of anything, right, when we try to bridge science and spirituality, I will be talking about this pyramid and which level is this evidence coming from. So back into NDEs, okay. So we have, even that mind-blowing story we shared just now, right? It's only a case report. It's only dark blue at that very low level. What we need is a trial to study. And thankfully, there's a doctor who stepped up to do that. And that is Dr. Sam Pania. Okay, he is the assistant professor of critical medicine and director of resuscitation research at the New York State University, come or honorary research fellow at the University of Southampton. Okay, and he set out to validify the conscious experiences of patients who were in limbo. Okay, that near death part. Okay, yeah. Okay. In other words, they are on a mission to determine whether subjective claims of awareness compatible with our body experiences correspond with real or hallucinatory events. Dang, dang, dang. So he did a large-scale study involving 2,060 patients. The larger the number of participants, the stronger the study, right? And this is called the AWARE trial. What? Yes. So this is a long-term research because he's the director of resuscitation
I see.
ED. So he
Okay.
could establish a protocol where, okay, for this kind of patients who come in, near death,
Uh-oh.
things at no harm to the patient. Yeah. So I will explain what they do subsequently. So this is the AWARE trial, which stands for Awareness During Resuscitation. AWA, Awareness, Resus, RE, AWARE trial. So very nice to read, right?
Yeah.
So there are two levels of study. The first level of study is very cute in the sense that we talk about you and right?
Oh, something's wrong.
Hold on. Doctor Yong, I think your internet is lagging a bit.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Let me check.
Get on to us.
Okay, let me get my phone up. Okay. Am I returning?
Yeah. No, you're okay.
Yeah. Okay, can. So the premise is that when we have our body, we will float to the ceiling and we can look from the ceiling point of view. Thanks, Eugene. I think we can drop the photo already. Thank you. Yeah. So how they did research is that if I were to put diagrams printed on top of shells in the resuscitation areas, right? And the patient, if they come back, they will be able to see it, and that is like proof that they floated the ceiling. Okay. In this research, right, a lot of years spent, a lot of things spent. 0 of 2,060 patients reported the content of those images. What a bummer. Okay. One major reason why the research didn't go as planned was patients didn't collapse in the planned areas. They thought that patients were going to collapse here, right? 78% of them did not happen. 78% of the cardiac arrest took place in the areas without shells. So it was actually a methodological issue. Okay. But Dr. Sam, he is not giving up. He came back with AWARE 2 trial. And then he recruited 2,400 patients. Okay. And then they did a study. Okay. And this is how the study goes. Okay, let's see. Because I'm reading from my newsletter, let me just get to where it is. But feel free to jump in with any thoughts you had about the first section.
Oh, quite a lot of questions already, actually.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I'm just so wowed. That's to know that there's an actual experiment going on, and there are people in the medical field just fighting for this. I think we should bring him on the show, man.
Yeah. Yeah, there's too many people we have to bring into this show.
Yes.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
okay, a few highlights is that one patient who had cardiac arrest viewed himself from a point of view of the ceiling. He saw what medical intervention was done for his body and who came to visit. Subsequently, they when he woke up, he mentioned, and it was actually corroborated that during his comatose state, the relatives he mentioned actually came, and what he experienced during the resuscitation was true. Okay, there's also a case where the consciousness and awareness occurred during a 3 minute period where there was no heartbeat. Yeah, so it's also pretty powerful. And just what I mentioned just now, right? The brain wave spikes. EEG test uncovered spikes of brain activity, normally seen when people are conscious, gamma, delta, theta, alpha, beta, up to an hour into CPR. So these waves, when you are unconscious, are supposed to be flat, none. Only interference waves from the CPR. Okay, but these activities can occur during the CPR process. Okay, um, and well, there's a lot I've written a lot, so let me just find the most succinct things. Then okay, so out of the 2,405 people, right, there are people who survived the incidents to be able to report. There are those who subsequently did not attend for the interview and whatnot. But there are 28 people who survived the resuscitation um, subsequently and then completed the in-hospital interview. And these people reported 39% of them had broad perceptions, 20% of them had a transcendent experience of oneness, 7% of experiences compatible with CPR induced consciousness, which is a separate category. I will dive into that. 7% of them had auditory experiences when they were clean, when the brain was dead, and 3.5% had the visual experiences when they were dead. Okay. And then okay. Yeah. Yeah, please fill in the gaps while I read and summarize.
While
Sorry
you're
about that.
thinking, I need to go and pee.
Do you think do you think like NDE is a version of them just being a temporal ghost?
Um, Based on what I believe, right, and how I see
Yeah,
it is that because consciousness is survives the body, so
yeah,
even when we are dead, this consciousness gets out,
uh,
and then when the body is still viable, the
yeah,
consciousness comes back
yeah.
in, and yeah, this could be the soul, it could be the spirit. Yeah, what do you think?
Wow, because the way I see it, right, is
Mm,
that it's also okay because it really there's this conversion, like my
mm,
brain, I'm just seeing this Vitruvian man, whereby it's in between dreams and the physical because consciousness lah,
mm,
the physical and then also in the spiritual sense. So it's like it's a one, two, three all combined, and you are just in this limbo or this balance where you're neither here, you're neither there, but you are still there because it's like okay also in my this coding language, it's like a glitch in the universe, where it cannot it doesn't know where to place you, so it just kind of like stalls to decide whether or not to keep you alive or send you to move on, or no, and then you were just there for like however long. It could be many years, it could be weeks, or it could be 2 minutes or 5 seconds, like you were just there, and
mm,
because universe, I don't think the universe ever operates within time. And I remember I read before somewhere that they have proven that time is not a linear line. It's actually everything all is happening all at the same time.
mm,
It's just a
mm,
matter of how our brain is able to perceive it, which means like right now where we are at 2025 and whichever date, whichever time, correct, what's happening tomorrow, what's happening 20,000 years later is also happening now at the same time. It's just that we don't, I don't know lah, maybe the laws that define us as a human only allows us to perceive time as how we perceive it here. So um I don't know, Eugene, what do you think? We were discussing on whether or not like this as a person who is experiencing NDE, right? Are they temporarily the hantu for a while.
I mean, then we got to define what's a hantu, right? Hantu is just a soul without a body. So if I were to get out of my body today and I float around, even if I'm astral traveling, and I go into your room, you're gonna see me as the hantu.
Yeah,
Yeah.
correct. So, like, can we simplify that?
Simplify. Hantus are souls
should-
without bodies, without physical form.
I mean, effectively, that's what people believe, right? Like okay, like in whichever way that you decide to appear before a person, correct? Um, hantu is is a consciousness without a body. uh, or
Okay.
okay, or why do you think, like, for example, okay, so we're talking about this, right? Like we say, okay, hantus are consciousness without a body, correct? Uh, now why do you think that it seems to follow a universal pattern? Like, it seems to be that they share so many similarities across all different cultures, all different countries. I don't know, regions.
So what's the
What do you
question
think?
again? Why do they
No,
share?
okay, okay. Do you think like near death experiences, right, follow a universal pattern, or are they culturally programmed? I think that's the better way to ask
Oh,
this.
okay, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, from just the stats that we are talking about in the last two episodes, part one, part two, it doesn't seem like just an Asian thing or a Western thing. This seems like a universal thing, a global phenomenon. Like everyone across the world, when they suffer from certain things, the same signs happen. The white light at the end of the tunnel. That's not a cultural thing. The seeing God, whatever God in form of God, that could be a cultural thing.
Perhaps.
Or having the ability to see what's in the place, even though they were blind or they're clinically dead. So that's not a cultural thing. So I think there are certain universal law to what happens when a consciousness leave a body, but what the consciousness see and experience in terms of how the consciousness interpret the data that they connect with. That then maybe could be cultural as well as past life knowledge.
And this is where also the evidence. I'm not sure whether I could use the word support it, but just now we talked about Dr. Sempanya in his Aware 2 trial, right? He recruited 2,400 patients, of which some survived the CPR process. Some survived the CPR process, however, did not survive subsequently. Some able to survive but unable to record an interview because of the disabilities they had. So out of these 2,400 patients, right, of them could get interviewed, and 9% and 9 of them actually had a fit clinical criteria of a near-death experience. And what did they experience, right? And then Eugene, you mentioned the tunnel of light, whatever. So there is common themes about what they experience, and there are 5 common themes. One is undergoing an educational re-evaluation of life, my life, fresh over my eyes. Okay, we heard that before, right? The
Yeah.
second one is the phenomenon of returning again. Okay, the third one is a perception of separation from the body. The fourth one is perception of heading towards a direction. Okay, and the fifth one, returning to a place that felt like home. Yeah. Mm. And what are their exact words, right? And this is where I feel what is important about this NDEs is, right, how does it help us, right? So this person said that I had a recording of my life. All my thoughts, all my intentions, and all my actions matter. Okay. I saw myself on the wrong side. I was not as good as I thought I was. I was also shown the good things I had done. I did not know the being. I did not know the being is aware of everyone and everything, every minute of every day, and that each act, each word, each intention is duly noted. So he realized the impact of all his words, his actions, and I would believe that this person after this, right,
Wow.
would be quite a changed person.
Oh my
Okay.
goodness, I will be too, man.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if every single so you're saying every single action is recorded.
Mm.
Oh, that is infodynamics on a
Yeah, that's
10,000
your
intensity.
ledger, right?
Yeah.
It's like,
Yes. And another one said that I collected all of this in my newsletter. Again, I will share the link. I just take a brief one. Being in others' shoes, experiencing the perspective of others, I could examine my experiences from multiple perspectives, such as the person they affected. Many events in my life I experienced, but not from how I remembered it, but from the point of view from the other people from that event. And this is super powerful as well. You're gonna feel, in my personal experience, right? All the pain I caused. And that's
Oh
why
my
when I woke up,
goodness.
I started calling everyone and apologizing.
Wow.
That was what happened to me. Yeah.
But
Ah.
what if the person who feels slighted
Mm.
is not because I offend the person, but the person is such a snowflake that it gets slighted. Like, I hate you. You hurt me, but I go like, what the fuck did I do, man? Then, so does that count under my ledger because someone hates me for no good reason?
I don't hold the ledger, so I don't know. But what's interesting, what's interesting about what you share is that of the people I call up to apologize, like after I had my ego death moment, right? It's like, what are you talking about? That's from 10 years ago. I don't even remember. Why are you bringing this up?
Yeah.
Are you committing suicide? This was their point of view.
Oh, you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I guess maybe it records at that time, at that moment, with the level of maturity that each person is or are during that time. Like I can count lah. There are many times where I also have been, arrogant to someone without really considering that. Although sometimes we do things out of good intention, or we think like the reprimand is good for them, but turns out actually it's more destructive than constructive lah, I suppose. I don't know.
Okay.
Oh, that's interesting. That's very, very, very powerful.
Let me just add comments on two sides of the spectrum, right? One said that, I had done so little with my life. I had been selfish and cruel in so many ways. I was truly sorry I had done so little. When my life review was over, my head was hung in shame for what I had seen. I was not happy about many, many of my actions. Okay, this is one end of the spectrum. And then the middle one, I found out that I had to improve as a human being. I learned so many things about myself that I did not know. And the other end of the spectrum is that I felt there is something at stake, that we have a very important job to do. I saw that I alone am in charge of my destiny.
That's more like me lah. That's most. I resonate more with that.
Well, no, okay, but do you think there's a reason why they came back?
Some like what Eugene said, right? That it's not your time, and then there's also is that this I believe that we are supposed to live in a path of flow in life, and then there are things we are meant to do, but because of what we have been indoctrinated and what society expected, we go pathways that are far deviated from where we're supposed to be. Sometimes when this happens, right, universe gives us a nudge. Some small bad thing happens. We don't listen. Years go on, and then it becomes a show. Bankruptcy happens, death of a loved one, a terminal illness. For some of them, it could be an NDE. This is like, look, this cannot go on any further.
Like
Take
final
a good
straw.
look at your life and decide what you want to do from this point onward. And that's what I believe.
Because I was also thinking like maybe the other 2,000 that don't survive, whichever, correct. All decided that, hey, forget it lah. Hey, this life too tough lah. I think so.
Rich quit lah. They rich quit.
I'm lonely, log out, no one already. No, or some could be like, okay, I've done it already. That's it. Bye bye. I mean, could be lah. Like I don't know. It's very interesting. It's definitely it's a very big takeaway to know that like every second, every moment of action is taken into account. Yeah. Wow. That is
that was that person's experience. I perhaps it could be representative of all our collective experiences.
I mean, it's definitely an indication lah. Like as human beings, sometimes we think our actions don't have consequences, or rather, our actions that go unnoticed have no consequences. Actually, it is very much further from the truth that we realize. So that is what I find.
It is like, the words that we say carry vibrations, and then we may curse someone, behind their backs or whatever, and we need to realize that all those have repercussions, whether we like it or not. And just to add a few more here, that it was not my time that I needed. It was not my time. I needed to return to my body to complete my life's mission. I felt an obligation, a responsibility of sorts. I needed to finish what I had begun to learn. ... Okay. Some say that I could see from the top of the room in 360 degrees. I perceive and saw everything around me. Like in the 360, this is from two different persons. Okay. I was still alive, but I didn't have my body. I know for a fact that that I exist. I sense that I had left my body. I have died and left my body, yet I still exist. Okay. And perceptions towards a destination. I traveled through a kind of a tunnel. It appeared as though we were going through a tunnel of like two separate persons. And experiencing others, I felt very comfortable, and I was approached by a being of light. As he came to me, I recognized that it was my grandfather. He had passed away about 5 years prior to that. Okay, and then there's a second one. I can't really describe how awesome, calm, and perfect my father looked. When he passed, he was 73 years old and all grey beard and mustache. As he appeared before me, he was much younger. A lot to think about, right? That when the past life relatives come back, they come back as a more pristine, ideal version of themselves. Right? Yeah, and probably Eugene, you probably heard things like that.
Usually when people are about to die, not even near death, right? Like close
Yeah.
to dying, the week leading up to their final breath, they will tend to point out, they say, I can see my relative. They are waiting at my bedside. They are there. And one day before they die, they will miraculously be healthy, laughing, in good spirits. And the living family members will think, oh, they are making a recovery. The next day, gone. And this phenomena is also very well documented by medical staff in hospitals. In fact, I think a nurse actually wrote a book out of it based on a collection of experiences of people who had that moment. There's even a terminology for it. I can't remember what it is. Yeah, but the citation of seeing their loved ones coming to pick them up is very real.
What Eugene mentioned, I think we discussed during our podcast a year and a half ago, and the Chinese term is 回光返照. When this terminally ill person will suddenly get very lucid, able to say a lot of things, probably mention his last wishes, and then boom, yeah, he disappears. 24 hours later. Okay, and I just share one more.
Yeah.
Is that I saw the divine spark, that light that connects us to the Creator, to the Source, where we return with unimaginable joy. I was going back to my origin and the origin of everything.
Wow, fantastic! I was going to ask this question. Okay, so
Yeah.
you were talking about people going through a live review, correct?
Yeah. Yes.
Now, do you think that is an infodynamic process where the the experiences are being restructured and then gets reintegrated back into the larger system?
My analogy for this, right, is that we
hold
have
on,
been
man.
having, yeah. Oh, does that sound okay? My analogy to this is that we have a hard drive, and this hard drive has been with us for as long as we live, right? And there will be sectors and areas that we have forgotten about. And in this NDE kind of review, it's like we go to check those files that we need to see, but it's been buried under for so long. And then it starts to make connections to other computers in the network as well, because we are all connected, right? And this NDE is a universal defect, not defect. I guess it's a recalibration process for our hard disk and how we behave and act in the world. Yeah.
So now, so do you think the tunnel of light is the actual transition mechanism?
If we were to think of Star Trek, if we would think of Scotty BB,
Baby.
Yeah, man.
and all those things, and even in Avengers when Heimdall calls out the Bifrost, and it is all this thing, right? Are these based on something else? But and if you were to transcend to a different dimension, right? Going into a lift doesn't cut it, right? This tunnel of light seems more cool.
Personally, I believe in the tunnel of light as the transition point. That's going back to source. The source is the light. Now, again, I draw back from the experience that I had when I traveled up towards the light. I went down to the darkness. I went up to the light. So the light seems to represent this source. And I really watched Matrix when the TV turns off. There's the tweet. There's that white light There's always that tunnel of light.
Yeah.
So I think that's not a cultural thing. I think that's actually a spiritual thing. Like that is non-debatable. That exists. Like whether we want to believe or not, whichever divine pantheon you worship, the white light is the other world. That crossing over the other world, and because there's been so many talks about people experiencing the white light either through death, near death, spiritual enlightenment across culture, across boundaries. I like to believe that that's the to borrow your word, that's the Bifrost. When you're being transported to another place, or you can see that tunnel that transport you to another place is the white light. The elevator is the white light.
Oh, okay. Wow, because now I'm getting the vibe. Like, okay, so I got two vibes. I think through this whole entire conversation, number one would be: is lucid dreaming similar to NDE?
Yeah,
That's the first one.
I think Eugene will answer. For me is that we can develop different processes, and like what we mentioned earlier, you don't have to near die to experience this. You can do it through meditation.
Yeah.
And for those who can control, who have developed the power, first to have lucid dreaming, and to me, astral traveling is the second step from lucid dreaming. One, you need to gain awareness that you are dreaming, and then you take hold of the steering wheel, and then after that, you can do whatever you want, even
Yes.
transcend that dimension of dream and go beyond that.
Yes.
Yeah.
100% with you on this, Dr.
Yeah.
Yong.
Wow. That one is my personal. I want to research it, actually. Very interesting. Because it's very interesting. Because even for astral projection, right, it's something that is recorded in the Bible as well. Yeah, like Paul actually did it. Yeah, I forget Paul Peter, one of the letter P's guys, right? He did it. Matter of fact, he even threatened. He said, "I will send myself across and then scold you all and then come back." Really, well, that's one of his letters to the church. It's very, very funny. I don't know why not everyone missed this, but it's interesting as well. That means it can happen.
Inconvenient truth.
Yeah, lah. That's the thing. It's funny as well. Okay, my second question, and I think this one is kind of like the curveball that I've been keeping for a while, lah. Okay, so I will set this up. In memories, experiences, and all this like awareness can persist after clinical death. Correct. Now, does this mean, right, that not only does consciousness exist outside of the brain, okay, but rather could we be living in a system where death is just a transition, and finally, right, if let's say consciousness can exist outside the body and death is not the end of consciousness, then is this physical world a temporary construct that we are just logging in, and then when we are done, we log out?
Oh, simulation theory coming in. This is the Matrix. We all avatars logging into this avatar and into this form. But actually, we have a consciousness somewhere outside the server. This is just a playing field.
I tend to believe that this could probably be the case. And when we talk about parallel dimensions, multiverses, yeah, it could just, our consciousness being plugged into different servers, playing, one playing Fortnite, the other one playing Counter-Strike.
Correct.
And
So this brings us to. Is this the topic for the next one? Are you priming us for this, Mike? It sounds like it.
Maybe. No, I don't know. Okay, because so here's the thing. For the topics, right? It's been a very interesting series, and I've tried very hard to kind of bring it back to the paranormal. But I also noticed that people are asking about things like, "Are you ever going to discuss the book of Enoch? Are you ever going to discuss this? Are you ever going to discuss that?"
Yeah.
So I'm trying to figure a way out to
How do we nicely segue from NDE to all those?
to bridge into there. But so far, this has been interesting. I think this is also very, very, very much a part of a strange world. Yeah.
I would very much like to touch on the simulation theory. I think that has a lot of discussion going on around the world. Again, with academics and quantum physicists and all that. So it's not just pulling out of the air and trying to spin a story. There's been actual research done on all this. So to answer your question, Mike, I believe that as consciousness, we all have a source, and according to some practitioners, there are 9 different planes. So we could be inception down 9 times, and the collective belief is that Earth is the battlefield, is that one main place where you have free will. So this is the open source server that anyone could come in, log in, and play. And based on what and how each god or each higher consciousness comes in and manipulate the collective belief, they can then get more power, i.e. more likes, more subscribers, more fame, and therefore become more powerful on that 9 scale different planes. When I believe that when I die, I just eject out of Earth onto another plane, and I may choose to come back, I may choose not to come back, I may choose to, if I'm very self-aware, I may come back in a different form. Yeah, so that's my belief on the questions that you have.
To add on to that, I'm not sure which particular tradition that mentions this, is that it is only on this Earth plane, right, that you get a chance to level up, that you can evolve here. On other planes, you are static, and this is why you said, oh, you're lucky you're in this plane because you get to change, you get to evolve, and at this level, I'm stuck on whatever evolution I am. Yeah, you probably heard of that.
So like if I'm on level 5 now, I have supposed to have a certain purpose. I'm an angel, right? I cannot do anything else. This is my purpose. I have to follow my vocation. But if I want to change my path, I can go down to Earth, reset, and take out a new path, learn something new, and come back up again. So this is the great reset. Earth is the great reset.
Wow, that's so that's our next 10 episodes. I don't know which one.
I just like to drop a little bit of conclusion on NDEs. Is that that despite this research, right, that was done, and then they gathered very, very strong proof, but Dr. Sam and his team, they still are quite modest. It says, while it is not possible to absolutely prove the reality or meaning of the patient's experiences and claims of awareness, due to the very low incidence, 2% of his 2,500 patients have this visual awareness, or so-called OBEs, it is still impossible to disclaim them either, and more work is needed in the area. The recalled experience during death now merits further genuine investigation without prejudice, okay? Without skepticism. This is something worth exploring. It is worth exploring whether awareness may lead to long-term adverse psychological outcomes, including post-traumatic stress disorder, because they are, although I frame NDEs as a second chance, a lot of people come back brighter, better, wanting to do more. Some of them, a small portion of them, do experience it as a traumatic event and have PTSD over it. Yeah. Okay.
Snowflakes.
Okay. Yeah, and I believe that like just now what you mentioned, right? This nudge that life gives you when you're wrong path, NDEs is a reset button for you to go back to the path where you belong. Yeah.
Wow.
All right. Yes, with that, we kind of conclude this topic on NDE. We may look at this again in season 2, but I hope that we have been quite comprehensive in this two-part podcast.
Yeah, throw us, your questions in the comments. We look at them. We figure a way out to address them all.
Yeah. Book of Enoch is also quite fun. The green Emerald Tablet, I think it's also along those lines. I think that might be a season 2 thing. I mean, consider that season 1 we've I don't quite know how to just veer back into Book of Enoch or Solomon, topic of Solomon and all that.
I don't think Book of Enoch will even have science in it. It's definitely a very preachy and a very, okay, maybe not preachy, but there's definitely a lot. Okay, instead of science, there's going to be a lot of history and history tiles. I think this one Eugene is
We'll bring a historian in next time.
We're gonna bring like another folklorist historian,
a hot archaeologist, like
we need an actual Akashic fella count.
Okay, probably speak Latin. Yeah. Alrighty, so we'll see you guys next week on Strange World. Along with me, it's Mary Mike, Dr. Yong, myself, Eugene Tay, saying goodbye.
Bye.
What did you find?
You're listening to Supernatural Confessions.